The air in the Tartarus market was thick. It smelled like rusted metal, strange spices, and fear. This was a place at the edge of the galaxy, where laws were weak and money was a god. And the auction hall was the dark heart of this place. In the Five-Oath. Back of the hall, standing in the shadows, a human named Marcus watched. Marcus did not belong here. His jacket was old, the brown fabric thin and patched at the elbows. His boots were scuffed, the solace worn down from walking on 100 different space stations. He looked poor, because he was. He was a small-time cargo pilot. Every credit he had was for fuel or for fixing his old, broken-down ship. He clutched a small, thin credit chip in his pocket. It was his entire life. On the stage, the auctioneer, a large green-skinned slaver named Grok, smiled. His teeth were long and yellow. "Sold!" Grok shouted, his voice booming. A tall, muscular alien with blue skin was dragged off the stage in chains. A fine worker for the mines, the crowd was full of the galaxy's worst. Rich, cruel, and bored. They sat in fine chairs, sipping expensive drinks, while they bought and sold lives. Marcus felt sick. He was only here to buy a cheap, second-hand engine part. He had heard the auctions were a good place to find them. He did not know they sold people too. He was about to leave. He was turning to go, to get away from the smell of this place. But then, Grok's voice changed. "And now, my friends," Grok said, his voice dropping to a low, oily whisper, "we have a very special item. A true rarity. Something for the collector who has everything." The main lights went down. A single bright spotlight hit the center of the stage. A small, rusty cage was pushed out. Inside, two small figures were huddled together. They were children. They were alien girls. Twins. Their skin was a pale, soft blue, and it seemed to shimmer faintly like it was covered in starlight. Their eyes were huge, black, and filled with a terror so deep it was silent. They were small, perhaps 7 or 8 years old by human standards. They held onto each other, their thin arms wrapped tight, shaking so hard the cage rattled. "The last of their kind," Grok announced. Astria twins, perfectly matched. He leaned in, his smile growing wider. "Perfect, for pleasure. They are quiet, obedient, and guaranteed." The crowd made a low, ugly sound. A murmur of dark interest. Marcus froze. His hand, which had been on the door, was now a tight fist at his side. He could not move. "Let us start the bidding at 10,000 credits." Grok boomed. A hand went up. 10,000. 15. Another shouted from the front. 25,000. The price climbed. Higher and higher. Marcus's heart was pounding. He felt a cold, old anger. He remembered his little sister long ago. He remembered a colony raid. He remembered fire and shouting and being too small to help. He was not small now. But he was poor. He looked at the credit chip in his hand. He had saved for 2 years. 42,500 credits. It was every single credit he had in the universe. It was for a new FTL drive. Without that drive, his ship was just a metal box. He would be trapped here. He would be ruined. 40,000. A deep voice shouted. The bidding slowed. 40,000, Grok said. "A fine price. Do I hear 41? The hall was quiet. "Ah, Lord Harvok!" Grok suddenly cheered. A massive, slug-like creature in a floating chair made a wet, gurgling sound. He had raised one of his fat green arms. "Lord Harvok bids." 50,000 credits, the crowd gasped. Harvok was famous. His pleasure palaces were places from which no one ever returned. The twins, seeing the creature, began to cry. They were silent tears running down their shimmering blue faces. 50,000, Grok roared. A wonderful bid from a wonderful customer. Going once. Marcus stepped out of the shadows. He did not mean to. His body just moved. He was just one man in a patched jacket. He looked small. He looked poor. Grok saw him. The slaver stopped. His yellow teeth showed in a cruel smile. "Well, well," Grok said, his voice full of mockery. "What is this? A human? Does the little mammal wish to bid?" The entire room turned. They saw Marcus. They saw his old clothes. They saw his human face. And they laughed. The sound was loud and sharp. Lord Harvok made his wet, gurgling laugh again. The guards in their black armor chuckled. "What will you bid, human?" Grok mocked, playing to the crowd. "The dust in your pockets? The buttons on your coat?" Marcus just stood there. He let them laugh. His face was hot with shame. He was nothing. He had nothing, going once. Grok shouted at Harvok, ignoring Marcus. "To the generous lord. 50,000. Going, twice." In the cage, the twins had shut their eyes. They were braced for their fate. Marcus looked at his chip. He looked at his broken dream of a new engine. He looked at the twins. Wait. His voice was not loud, but it cut through the room like a knife. The laughter stopped. It did not fade. It just stopped. Grok turned, his face annoyed. "What? What is it, human? We are busy here." Marcus did not look at Grok. He looked at the electronic bidding screen. He held up his small, thin credit chip. "What is that?" Grok sneered. "Your meal ticket?" "I bid this," Marcus said. His voice was steady now. "All of it, my entire fortune." Grok's smile faltered. "That is not how this works. You must say a number." "I don't know the exact number," Marcus said. "Just scan it and bid it." Everything. The room was completely silent. The crowd was confused. This was not part of the show. A small, thin attendant in a uniform walked up to Marcus, holding a credit scanner. The attendant looked nervous. Marcus held out the chip. The attendant scanned it. Beep. The attendant looked at the small screen on his scanner. His eyes went wide. He looked at Marcus. He looked at the screen again. He was pale. "Well?" Grok demanded, his voice losing its confidence. "How much did the little man bid? 50 credits? 100? The attendant was shaking. He looked up at Grok on the stage. "Sir," the attendant whispered. "The bid, it's 42,500. Grok's face went blank. The crowd was silent. Then Lord Harvok, the slug creature, made a sound. A low, angry hiss. And Grok, the slaver, looked at his best customer, then at the human, and he laughed again. But this time, it was not mockery. It was pure, greedy joy. 42,500. Grok roared. "A pathetic bid. Lord Harvok is at 50,000. You are short, human. You lose." Grok raised his hammer. "Sold. Wait," Marcus said again. He stepped forward. The laughter had died again. "I bid my fortune. That was just my credits." He reached up. His hand went to a chain around his neck, hidden under his shirt. "Scan this too," Marcus said. He pulled the chain off and held it out. On the chain was not a jewel. It was a small, silver military dog tag. Marcus Arcane, Alliance Freighter Corps. Grok was confused. "That is worthless." "It's not," Marcus said. "Scan the back. It is the registration and title. For my ship." The entire auction hall went completely silent. Even Lord Harvok, the massive slug creature, stopped his gurgling. The crowd did not understand. Grok, the auctioneer, stared at the silver tag in the human's hand. "His ship?" A voice whispered from the crowd. "He is bidding his ship?" Grok's greedy smile was gone. This was not funny anymore. This was serious. A ship was not just money. It was life. It was freedom. "You are a fool, human," Grok said, his voice a low growl. "Your ship is probably worthless. A piece of junk." "Scan it," Marcus said again. His voice did not shake. The attendant with the scanner looked terrified. He looked at Grok, who gave a sharp, angry nod. The attendant stepped forward and held his scanner over the small silver dog tag. The scanner whirred. It connected to the central ship registry. For a moment, the only sound in the hall was the clicking of the machine as it searched the database. A final beep echoed in the silence. The attendant's face went pale. He stumbled back, holding the scanner like it was a hot coal. "What is it?" Grok roared, losing his patience. "How much? 1,000 credits? 2? The attendant swallowed. "Sir, the ship is a Starlight-class freighter. Model 2B, heavily modified. The value, you idiot." Grok screamed. Its registered scrap value is 8,000 credits, the attendant whispered. The crowd gasped. Grow KK single quotes, S eyes widened. He did the math in his head. 42,500 in credits. 8,000 in scrap value. 50,500, Grok said, his voice full of shock. The poor human. The small, pathetic mammal in the patch jacket had just outbid the most powerful creature in the room. Marcus had bid 50,500 credits. Lord Harvok's bid was 50,000. The human was winning. All eyes turned to Lord Harvok. The massive green creature was still. He was not gurgling. He was not laughing. He was watching the human. A deep, wet, hissing sound came from his chair. He was angry. In the cage, the twin girls were on their feet. Their huge black eyes were fixed on Marcus. For the first time, there was something in their eyes besides terror. It was a tiny, impossible spark of hope. Grok was in a terrible position. He did not want to make Lord Harvok angry. Harvok was his best customer, but 50,500 credits was 50,500 credits. And it was a public auction. A bid of 50,500. Grok announced, his voice now formal. "Do I hear 51,000? He looked directly at Lord Harvok. The slug creature made a loud gurgle. A robotic voice spoke from his chair. 55,000. The crowd sighed. It was over. The human had tried. He had been brave. But he was finished. Marcus's shoulders slumped. It was done. He had bid his entire life. His money. His ship. He had nothing left. He was now just a man, trapped on a lawless station, with no way to leave. He had failed. He had sacrificed everything, and it was still not enough. Grok smiled again. His yellow teeth were sharp. He had his rich customer back. 55,000 credits from Lord Harvok. A strong bid. Does the human have another bid? The crowd laughed. It was a cruel, final laugh. Marcus just stared at the floor. He slowly shook his head. "No," he whispered. "Then it is done," Grok said, raising his heavy wooden hammer. "A final chance. Going once. The twins in the cage watched the hammer. Their moment of hope was gone. The light in their eyes died, and the tears returned. Going twice. Grok looked at Lord Harvok, who was smiling his wet, ugly smile. "Sold." "Wait." The voice was not Marcus's. It was a new voice from the back of the room. It was sharp, female, and full of authority. "The bid is not final." A woman stepped out of the shadows. She wore the black and red uniform of the Interstellar Bank. She was an auditor. She looked at Grok and then at Marcus. "We have been watching this auction," she said. "And that human, his ship's value is wrong." Grok froze, his hammer in the air. What do you mean?" The woman held up her own data pad. "You scanned for scrap value. You did not scan for cargo value." She turned to the stunned crowd. "The Starlight Freighter, registration 2B, is currently holding cargo. A cargo that was insured by our bank." She looked at Marcus. "Mr. Kane, you forgot about your cargo." Marcus looked confused. It's just medical supplies. Low value. No, Mr. Kane, the woman said, a small smile on her face. It was medical supplies. But that cargo ... was a decoy. You are a blind shipper. You are currently holding one sealed crate of pure, refined Nyx crystal. The entire room, including Lord Harvok, gasped. Grok dropped his hammer. It clanged loudly on the stage. And Wyke's crystal? Grok whispered. That's impossible. The woman smiled. It's the rarest FTL component in the galaxy. That one crate is worth 5 million credits. The room was not just silent. It was frozen. The word Nyx crystal hung in the air like a bomb that had not yet exploded. 5 million credits. Grow KK. The auctioneer was pale. His green skin had turned a light, sick shade of gray. He was staring at Marcus, not as a poor human, but as a god. Marcus himself was in shock. He was a delivery man. A blind shipper. He just picked up boxes. He never knew what was inside. He thought he was hauling low-grade medicine. He was hauling a king's ransom. And Lord Hard-VOK ... The massive, slug-like creature ... was making a sound like a boiling kettle. He was furious. He, who had come to buy pleasure, had been publicly humiliated by a poor, stupid human who did not even know he was rich. The bank auditor looked at Grok. The cargo is insured, and the title is with the human. His bid is ... valid. Grok's fear suddenly vanished. It was replaced by pure, ecstatic greed. He was no longer worried about Lord Harvok. He was about to make the biggest sale of his life. He banged his hammer on the podium. BANG, the auction, is still live. Grok roared, his voice filled with new energy. We have a bid of 55,000 from Lord Harvok. The auctioneer turned, his yellow teeth in a massive smile, towards Marcus. Human, do you have a new bid? The entire room, all the slavers and criminals, leaned forward. This was not an auction anymore. This was a war. Marcus looked at the cage. The twin girls were watching him. Their huge, dark eyes were wide with confusion. They did not understand. He looked at Lord Harvok, who was hissing with rage. He looked at the bank auditor, who just nodded. Marcus took a deep breath. He was not a rich man. He was just a cargo pilot. But he was human. 100,000, Marcus said. His voice was quiet, but it was clear. A gasp went through the room. Lord Harvok's robotic chair whined. 150,000. The machine's voice said. 200,000, Marcus said, not even waiting. 250. Harvok screamed. 300,000, Marcus said. He was not even blinking. It was clear to everyone. Marcus was not bidding to win. He was bidding to crush. Lord Harvok was shaking in his chair. He was rich, but this was a matter of pride. He was about to bid again, but Marcus spoke first. 1 million credits. The words dropped into the room like a mountain. 1 million. For 2 small slaves. It was not a bid. It was a statement. It was an insult. It was insane. Lord Harvok's chair made a hiss. The slug creature was sputtering. He looked at Marcus, his eyes full of hatred. He looked at the twins. He was a businessman. And this was a bad deal. With a final terrible sound of rage and defeat, Lord Harvok turned his massive chair around. He did not say a word. He just left the auction hall in disgrace. The room was silent. Grok was trembling. He had tears of joy in his eyes. He raised his hammer. 1 million. Credits. He whispered. He cleared his throat. Going once. Going twice. He looked at the empty doorway where Harvok had been. Sold. He screamed, slamming the hammer down so hard the wood splintered. To the human. For 1,000,000 credits. For a moment, Marcus just stood there. The crowd was staring at him. He was a millionaire. He was a slave owner, he was. Just tired guards, their faces now full of respect, unlocked the cage. They gently guided the two small shaking twins to Marcus. The girls walked up to him. They were terrified. They were his property. They bowed their heads, waiting for an order. Marcus did not give an order. He knelt down, so he was on their level. His old, patched jacket was now dusty from the floor. The girls flinched. He did not reach for them. He just showed them his empty hands. "Hello," he said softly. "My name is Marcus. You're safe now. No one is going to hurt you." The twins just stared, their big dark eyes full of fear. They did not understand his words. The bank auditor walked up to him. "Mr. Kane, we need to discuss the payment. We will have to seize your ship to sell the crystal." "That's fine," Marcus said, still looking at the girls. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, half-eaten nutrition bar. He broke it in two and slowly, gently, offered it to them. One of the girls, the braver one, slowly reached out and took the bar. "Mr. Kane," the auditor said, "you do understand. After the 1,000,000 credit bid is paid, you will still have 4,000,000 credits left." Marcus looked up at her. He saw the richest, cruelest people in the galaxy staring at him. He had just become one of them. He shook his head. "No," he said. "What?" the auditor asked, confused. Marcus stood up. He gently took the hands of the two small girls. "No," he said, his voice loud enough for the whole room to hear. "I don't have 4,000,000 credits." "They do." He looked at the shocked auditor. "Take the money. All of it. Pay the bid. The rest, put it in a trust fund for them. For their education. For their future. For whatever they want." The auditor was speechless. But sir, that is your fortune." Marcus looked at the two small alien girls holding his hands. He smiled. "I am a poor human," he said, repeating the slaver's words. "I'm just a cargo pilot. I don't need a fortune." He looked at Grok. "I need 8,000 credits, sir." Grok was confused. "My ship," Marcus said. "I bid the scrap value too, remember? I'll take that. It's enough to buy a new engine. And a hotel room for me and the kids. Until we can find their home." Marcus, holding the hands of the two free children, turned his back on the 5,000,000 credits. He turned his back on the slavers, the criminals, and the entire stunned auction hall. He was the poorest man in the room again, and he was the only one who was walking out free.